"Where is your lawyer, Mr. Okafor?" The judge's voice cut through the courtroom like a blade. Every head turned, every camera lens lifted. And there, in the front row, billionaire Daniel Okafor sat frozen. His hands clasped so tightly, his knuckles looked pale. His lead lawyer's chair was empty. Not late, not stuck in traffic. Empty. Daniel's heart pounded so hard it felt like a drum inside his chest. Across the aisle, the rival company's legal team sat neat and ready, their files arranged like weapons. Their senior counsel, a tall man with a sharp smile, rose slowly as if he had been waiting for this moment his whole life. "Your lordship," the man began, smooth and confident, "since the defendant is not properly represented, we are ready to proceed." A soft wave of whispers rolled through the room. "He's finished. That empire is gone. $500 million. Gone." Daniel's mind screamed at him to stand up and say something, anything. But his throat was dry. His tongue felt stuck. He looked at the empty chair again, as if his lawyer might suddenly appear like magic. But no one walked in. Only silence. The judge leaned forward, eyes narrowing. "Mr. Okafor," he said, "you were informed of this hearing date months ago. Why is your senior counsel absent?" Daniel swallowed hard. He tried to speak, but the sound that came out was small and weak. I don't know, your lordship." That answer made the whispers louder. At the back of the courtroom, journalists scribbled fast. One reporter leaned to another and whispered, "This is the biggest corporate case of the year. If he loses today, his entire company could be taken." Daniel's company, Okafor Holdings, was everything he had built. Thousands of workers, factories, warehouses, offices in Lagos and Abuja, contracts that fed families. It wasn't just money, it was lives. And now it was sitting on the edge of a cliff. Across the aisle, the rival company's founder, Chief Bamidele Akinyemi, sat like a king on a throne. He was older, heavy-set, dressed in expensive white traditional attire with a gold watch shining on his wrist. He didn't even look nervous. He looked happy. His lips curved into a small smile as he watched Daniel struggle. Daniel's stomach turned. Chief Bamidele had been chasing Daniel's business for years. He wanted Daniel's shipping ports, his real estate, his mining rights, everything. And now, with the court ready to proceed and Daniel's lawyer missing, it looked like Chief Bamidele finally got what he wanted. The judge lifted a paper, scanning it. "This court will not waste time," he said firmly. "Proceedings will continue." Daniel's eyes widened. "No, your lordship, please." But the judge raised a hand. "Do you have any representation present?" Daniel looked behind him. His legal team was there, but not the one person he needed. His senior lawyer, Barrister Tunde Ajayi, was missing. The man who never forgot a date. The man who always arrived early. The man who had promised Daniel last night on the phone, "Sleep well. Tomorrow I'll handle everything." Daniel's chest tightened. "Where are you, Tunde?" Then something even worse happened. The rival counsel opened a thick file and stepped forward, like a lion smelling blood. "Your lordship, we move to submit Exhibit C," he said. "The evidence clearly shows fraud, breach of contract, and deliberate concealment of assets. Okafor Holdings should be placed under receivership immediately, pending final judgment." Receivership. That word hit Daniel like a slap. Receivership meant strangers could take control of his company while the case continued. They could freeze accounts, stop projects, block access, destroy everything. Daniel's vision blurred for a second. He felt the room spinning. Beside him, his personal assistant, Ifeoma, leaned close and whispered, "Sir, please breathe." But Daniel couldn't breathe properly. The rival counsel turned slightly, his smile widening, and looked directly at Daniel as if to say, "This is the end." Then he began reading from a document. He said Daniel had forged approvals. He said Daniel had moved money through fake companies. He said Daniel had lied on official filings. Each sentence felt like another brick dropped on Daniel's chest. And the worst part, Daniel knew some of it was not true, but without his senior lawyer, he didn't know how to fight it fast enough. The judge listened, face unreadable. The courtroom got quieter with every word. Even the air felt heavy. Daniel's fingers trembled. His eyes moved again to the empty chair. Still empty, still nothing. Chief Bamadel leaned back comfortably, like a man watching a movie he already knew the ending of. Then the rival counsel said the words that made Daniel's blood run cold. "We also have proof," the man added, "that the defendant's key contract documents were fabricated after the dispute began." Fabricated lies. Daniel wanted to shout, "That's not true," but he knew shouting in court would only make him look guilty. The judge raised his pen slightly. "Submit the exhibits," he ordered. The clerk reached out to collect the files. Daniel's heart hammered harder. If those exhibits entered the record without a fight, everything could swing against him before he even spoke. He leaned to his backup counsel, a nervous man named Barrister Kohler, a mid-level lawyer who usually handled small issues, not war. "Kohler," Daniel whispered urgently, "do something. Object, please." Kohler's eyes darted. His mouth opened slightly, then closed. He looked like a person asked to stop a moving train with his bare hands. "Sir, I need Barrister Ajayi for this," Kohler whispered back, voice shaking. Daniel's stomach dropped. The courtroom felt like it was closing in. Then from the bench, the judge looked at Daniel again. "Mr. Okafor," he said, "do you object to the submissions?" Daniel's lips parted, his head filled with panic. If he said nothing, it might be taken as agreement. If he spoke wrongly, he might destroy his own case. His heart screamed, "Say something." But his mind screamed, "Don't make it worse." He sat there, trapped. And for a moment, it looked like the rival counsel was about to win in the first hour. Then a small movement happened near the back of Daniel's table. A young woman stood up, not loud, not dramatic, just steady. She wore a simple black suit. Her hair was neatly packed back. No heavy jewelry, no flashy confidence, just calm eyes and a straight posture. Daniel blinked. He had seen her around the office before, but he didn't even know her well. She was a junior associate, one of the quiet ones. The judge glanced down. "And who are you?" The young woman cleared her throat softly. "Your Lordship," she said, voice respectful but firm, "my name is Amara Nwosu, junior counsel to the defense." A few people chuckled under their breath. Junior counsel. Some even smiled as if this was now a comedy show. The rival counsel's eyebrows lifted in amusement. Chief Bamadel's lips curled as if he was trying not to laugh. Daniel's stomach twisted. "Amara? Why is she standing? What is she doing?" Amara swallowed once, then looked at the judge again. "Your Lordship," she said, "I request permission to address the court." The judge paused. The room went very quiet. Even the pens stopped scratching for a second. The rival counsel stepped forward quickly, smile sharp again. "Your Lordship," he said, "with respect, this matter is too serious for junior experiments. The defendant had months to prepare. They should not be allowed to stall." Amara didn't flinch. She didn't look at the rival counsel. She kept her eyes on the judge. "Your Lordship," she said calmly, "I am not here to stall. I am here because there is a critical fact the court has not seen yet." That sentence sliced through the laughter. Daniel's eyes widened. Critical fact. The judge leaned forward slightly. "What fact?" he asked. Amara took a breath. Then she said words Daniel never expected to hear. "The exhibits the plaintiff wants to submit are built on forged timestamps." A gasp ran through the courtroom. The rival counsel's smile froze. Chief Bamadel's eyes sharpened, his body shifting in his seat. Daniel felt his heart jump. Amara continued, still calm. "And I can prove it, Your Lordship, right now." The judge's pen paused in mid-air. "What do you mean you can prove it right now?" the judge asked, voice suddenly harder. Amara reached into her file slowly, carefully, like someone handling something dangerous. She pulled out a thin envelope, and as she lifted it, Daniel saw the label on the front. It wasn't the company's label. It wasn't a court stamp. It was an email printout, with a date and time. Daniel's breath caught, because he recognized that email. It was supposed to be lost. It was supposed to be deleted. And yet, Amara held it up, looking straight at the judge. "Your Lordship," she said, "this single email links the plaintiff's key document to a shell company, and it exposes their entire story." The rival counsel stepped forward fast. "Objection!" he snapped, voice suddenly louder than before. But the judge raised a hand. His eyes were locked on Amara. "Proceed," the judge said. Daniel's heart slammed against his ribs. Amara opened her mouth to speak again, and at that exact moment, the courtroom doors behind them swung open. Everyone turned. A police officer stepped in, and behind him was Barrister Tunde Ajayi, Daniel's missing senior lawyer, walking in with his shirt torn and his face bruised, as if he had just fought for his life. Daniel's blood ran cold because the officer announced loudly, "Your Lordship, we need to report an attempted kidnapping connected to this case." And the judge's eyes widened. Daniel's world tilted. Kidnapping? Connected to the case? Was Tunde taken because of today? Amara stood frozen mid-sentence. The rival counsel looked like he had seen a ghost. Chief Bamadel's smile was gone, and Daniel Okafor realized something terrifying. This case was never just about money, it was about something much darker. The courtroom did not move, not a cough, not a whisper, not even the scratch of a pen. Every eye was locked on the doorway where Barrister Tunde Ajayi stood, breathing hard, his jacket torn at the shoulder, a dark bruise already forming on his cheek. A uniformed police officer stood beside him, hand resting near his radio. The judge was the first to speak. "Order," he said sharply, banging his gavel once. "What do you mean, attempted kidnapping?" The officer stepped forward. "Your Lordship, early this morning, Barrister Ajayi was attacked on his way to court. 2 men attempted to force him into a vehicle. He resisted and managed to escape with help from passers-by. We believe the attack is linked to this case." A murmur swept through the courtroom like a sudden wind. Daniel Okafor felt his knees weaken. They tried to take Tunde. Because of this trial. He turned fully in his seat now, staring at his lawyer. Their eyes met for a brief second. Tunde's face was pale, but his gaze was sharp, angry even. The rival counsel cleared his throat loudly. "Your Lordship, with respect, this is highly dramatic, but completely irrelevant to the matter before the court." The judge's eyes snapped toward him. "Irrelevant?" he repeated. "An attack on a key legal officer hours before trial is not irrelevant. It raises serious concerns." Chief Bamadel shifted in his seat, adjusting the edge of his agbada. His face was calm, but his fingers tapped lightly on the armrest. Too lightly. Daniel noticed it. The judge looked at Tunde. "Barrister Ajayi, are you fit to continue?" Tunde straightened, ignoring the pain in his shoulder. "Yes, Your Lordship, I am." The judge nodded. "Very well. Take your seat. We will address the incident later." As Tunde moved toward the defense table, Daniel leaned toward him urgently. "Are you all right?" Daniel whispered. Tunde nodded once. "I will explain later," he murmured back. "Focus." But Daniel could not focus. Someone had tried to remove his lawyer. Not delay him. Remove him. That thought crawled through Daniel's mind like ice. At the front, the judge turned his attention back to Amara, who was still standing, the thin envelope resting in her hands. "Miss Nwosu," the judge said, "you were in the middle of a submission. Continue." Amara swallowed, her fingers tightening slightly on the paper. She nodded respectfully. "Yes, Your Lordship." She stepped forward one pace. The rival counsel watched her closely now. The amusement was gone from his face. His jaw was tight. Amara held up the printed email. "This email," she said clearly, "was sent 3 days before the contract the plaintiff claims proves fraud. The contract carries a timestamp that places it after a regulatory approval. But this email references the same contract. Before that approval existed." She paused, letting the words sink in. "That means one of 2 things," she continued. "Either time moved backwards, or the timestamp was altered." A quiet gasp moved through the courtroom. The judge leaned forward. "Are you saying the document is forged?" "I am saying," Amara replied carefully, "that the timeline does not match reality. And I am prepared to submit digital logs from the mail server to support this." The rival counsel shot to his feet. "Objection. This is speculative and highly technical. She is not qualified." "Sit down," the judge said sharply. The rival counsel froze, then slowly lowered himself back into his seat. Daniel's heart pounded. Amara was doing what no one else had dared to do, pulling at the thread holding the rival's case together. The judge turned slightly to the clerk. "Mark the email for identification." The clerk nodded and took the document. Chief Bamidel leaned forward now, his voice calm but firm. "Your Lordship, my company denies any wrongdoing. We welcome a full investigation." Daniel almost laughed. "Of course you do," he thought, "because you think nothing will be found." Amara looked toward Chief Bamidel for the first time. "Your Lordship," she said, "with your permission, I would like to explain why this email matters." "Go on," the judge said. Amara took another breath. "This email was sent from a domain registered to a logistics firm that does not appear in the plaintiff's official filings," she said. "However, that same firm appears as a minor subcontractor in 3 of the plaintiff's offshore shell companies." The room buzzed. Reporters leaned forward. Pens flew. The rival counsel's face darkened. Daniel felt a spark of hope, small but alive. Amara continued, "The email also includes an attachment hash that matches the document presented as Exhibit C. The only difference is the timestamp." The judge's eyes narrowed. "Meaning?" "Meaning," Amara said softly, "that Exhibit C was created earlier than claimed, and later altered to fit the plaintiff's story." Silence followed. Heavy silence. Then the judge turned to the rival counsel. "Do you wish to respond?" The rival counsel stood slowly. He smiled, but it did not reach his eyes. "Your Lordship," he said, "this is an impressive theory, but theories are not facts. We cannot allow a junior associate to rewrite an entire case based on assumptions." Amara didn't react. She simply reached into her file again. And this time she pulled out something thicker. "A server log," she said, "obtained legally through discovery. The plaintiff's team submitted it themselves, but did not review page 12. The rival counsel's breath hitched. Daniel saw it, just for a second. "Fear," the judge gestured. "Approach." Amara walked to the bench and handed the document to the clerk, who passed it to the judge. As the judge read, his expression changed. Slowly, carefully. His jaw tightened. He turned one page, then another. The courtroom felt like it was holding its breath. Finally, the judge looked up. "This log shows multiple access attempts to the document file after its supposed finalization," he said slowly, "including one access at 2:14 a.m. on the day after the approval date." The rival counsel opened his mouth, closed it. Chief Bamidel's tapping fingers stopped. Daniel felt his pulse roaring in his ears. The judge leaned back slightly. "Miss Nwosu," he said, "why was this not raised earlier?" Amara hesitated for the first time. "Because, Your Lordship," she said carefully, "the significance only became clear when I cross-referenced the email timestamp with the server log late last night." Daniel turned sharply toward her. Last night, while everyone else was confident, she had been digging. The judge nodded once. "Very well." He turned to the rival counsel again. "This court will take a short recess," he announced. "I expect both parties to be prepared to address these inconsistencies when we return." The gavel struck. Court was in recess. The sound exploded the tension like a cracked glass. People stood, voices rose, phones came out. Daniel exhaled sharply, his chest finally loosening. He turned to Amara fully now. "Amara," he said quietly, "where did you find all this?" Amara looked tired for the first time. "I didn't sleep," she admitted. Something felt off. The documents were too perfect. Daniel shook his head slowly. "You may have just saved my company." Amara didn't smile. "Not yet," she said. "This is only the surface." Tunde leaned in. "She's right," he said. "What they tried to do to me this morning tells me this goes deeper." Daniel frowned. "What do you mean?" Tunde's eyes hardened. "They weren't trying to scare me. They were trying to stop something." Across the room, Chief Bamidel stood with his lawyers, speaking in low voices. His face was tight now, controlled, cold. And as Daniel watched him, Chief Bamidel suddenly looked back. Their eyes met. For a brief moment, there was no courtroom, no judge, just 2 men staring at each other. Then Chief Bamidel smiled again. But this time it was not confident, it was dangerous. Daniel felt a chill run through him, because in that moment he understood something clearly. If they were willing to kidnap his lawyer, they would not stop here. And whatever Amara had uncovered, Someone was desperate to keep it buried. As the bailiff called everyone back to order, Daniel took his seat again, heart pounding. The judge returned, court resumed, and the rival counsel stood. "Your lordship," he said, voice steady but tight, "before we proceed, the plaintiff wishes to submit additional evidence." Daniel's breath caught. Additional evidence? Amara's eyes narrowed. The judge nodded. "Proceed." The rival counsel lifted a new file, and as Daniel saw the label on it, his stomach dropped. Because it carried the name of a company Daniel had never heard of. But the signature at the bottom looked frighteningly familiar. It looked like his. And Daniel knew with sudden terror that the next fight would be even worse. Daniel Okafor stared at the document like it was a snake coiled on the table. The signature at the bottom was neat, familiar, slanted slightly to the right, just the way his always was. His signature. But Daniel knew deep in his bones that he had never signed anything for that company. Never. The rival counsel held the file confidently, flipping it open for the court to see. "Your lordship," he said, "this document shows that Mr. Okafor personally authorized a transfer of assets to Brightfall Resources Ltd., a company he conveniently claims not to know. This authorization directly contradicts his earlier statements." A low murmur spread across the room again. Daniel's chest tightened. "Brightfall? What is Brightfall?" The judge looked down at the document, then up at Daniel. "Mr. Okafor," he asked calmly, "do you recognize this agreement?" Daniel stood slowly. His legs felt heavy, but his voice was firm. "No, your lordship," he said. "I have never signed this document." The rival counsel smiled faintly. "Yet the signature matches dozens of others on record," he said, "including contracts this court has already accepted as authentic." Daniel clenched his fists. This was bad. Very bad. The judge turned to Amara. "Miss Nwosu." Amara rose again, slower this time. Her eyes were fixed on the document. "Your lordship," she said, "may I examine the agreement?" The judge nodded. "You may." Amara approached the rival counsel, who handed it over reluctantly. She studied it carefully, not just the signature, the spacing, the font, the margins. Daniel watched her face closely. At first, there was nothing. Then, something changed. Her brow furrowed. She turned one page, then another. Her lips pressed together. Daniel leaned forward, heart racing. "What do you see?" Amara looked up. "Your lordship," she said slowly, "this document claims to have been signed in Abuja." "Yes," the rival counsel said quickly, "at a private business meeting." Amara nodded once. "Interesting." She flipped back to the final page and pointed to a small mark near the bottom. "This print code," she said, "belongs to a printer model registered to an office in Lekki." The courtroom stilled. The rival counsel's smile faded slightly. Amara continued, voice calm but firm. "That printer model was never used in Abuja. It was installed in Mr. Okafor's Lagos office after the date on this agreement." A ripple of whispers followed. The judge leaned forward again. "Are you suggesting the document was printed later?" he asked. "Yes, your lordship," Amara replied, "and possibly assembled using an older signature sample." Daniel's pulse jumped. The rival counsel snapped. "That is speculation." Amara met his eyes for the first time. "No," she said quietly, "it is pattern analysis." She turned to the judge again. "Your lordship, I request permission to submit comparison metadata from Mr. Okafor's verified contracts." The judge paused, then nodded. "Granted." Amara returned to the defense table, opening her laptop. Her fingers moved fast but steady. Daniel watched the screen glow faintly. This was no longer about confidence, it was about precision. The judge waited. The courtroom waited. Finally, Amara spoke again. "The pressure curve on this signature is uniform," she said. "Mr. Okafor's real signatures show natural breaks, especially on the letter O. This one does not." The rival counsel's face tightened. Daniel felt a strange mix of fear and relief. Someone copied my signature. But that meant someone had access to it. Someone close. The judge tapped his pen once. "Barrister," he said to the rival counsel, "where did this document come from?" The rival counsel hesitated just a second too long. It was provided by Brightful Resources, he said, as part of their records. And who controls Brightful Resources? The judge asked. The rival counsel cleared his throat. A private board. Amara spoke again, gently but sharply. Your lordship, she said, Brightful Resources shares a registered address with two of the plaintiff's offshore partners. The courtroom buzzed louder now. Daniel felt sweat gather at the back of his neck. This was unraveling. But the rival counsel was not done. Your lordship, he said quickly, even if the document is questioned, it does not erase the pattern of misconduct. We also have witness testimony. Daniel's heart sank. Witness? He repeated softly. The judge raised a brow. Who is the witness? The rival counsel smiled again, thin, controlled. A former executive from Okafor Holdings, he said. Someone who worked directly under Mr. Okafor. Daniel's stomach dropped. Only a handful of people fit that description. The courtroom doors opened. A man walked in. Daniel froze. He recognized him instantly. Emeka, his former finance director. The man Daniel had fired 2 years ago for leaking sensitive reports. Emeka avoided Daniel's eyes as he walked to the stand. The judge administered the oath. State your name, the judge said. Emeka Lawson, the man replied quietly. The rival counsel approached him. Mr. Lawson, he said, did you ever see Mr. Okafor authorize transfers to Brightful Resources? Emeka swallowed. Daniel leaned forward, barely breathing. Yes, Emeka said, I did. The words hit Daniel like a punch. The courtroom erupted into whispers again. Daniel stood up sharply. That's a lie. The judge banged the gavel. Order! Daniel sat back down, heart racing wildly. The rival counsel continued smoothly. When did this happen? Late at night, Emeka said. In his office. He told me it was confidential. Daniel stared at him. Why are you doing this? Amara rose slowly. Your lordship, she said, may I cross-examine the witness? The judge nodded. Proceed. Amara approached Emeka. Mr. Lawson, she said gently, you said this happened late at night. Can you recall the date? Emeka hesitated. Not exactly. Amara nodded. That's fine. Can you tell us what device Mr. Okafor used to sign? A tablet, Emeka replied. He often used a tablet. Amara turned slightly toward the judge. Your lordship, she said, Mr. Okafor's tablet was seized by airport security during an overseas trip on that date. It was returned to him 2 days later. Emeka's eyes flickered. The rival counsel stepped forward. Objection. Sustained later, the judge said. Let her finish. Amara turned back to Emeka. You were dismissed for breach of trust, she said softly. Is that correct? Emeka stiffened. Yes. And since then, Amara continued, you have been consulting for Brightful Resources. Emeka's head snapped up. That's not... Amara raised a document. Your consulting agreement, she said, signed 6 months ago. The courtroom gasped. Emeka's shoulders sagged. The rival counsel's jaw clenched. The judge leaned forward sharply. Mr. Lawson, he said, you are under oath. Emeka's hands trembled. Daniel's heart pounded. This was it. Either the truth would come out, or everything would collapse. Amara waited. The room was silent. Emeka looked down. Then he spoke. They promised me protection, he said quietly. They said I would never be blamed. Daniel's breath caught. Who promised you? The judge asked. Emeka swallowed hard. Before he could answer, the rival counsel slammed his hand on the table. Your lordship, this line of questioning is abusive. The judge struck the gavel hard. Enough, he thundered. Mr. Lawson, answer the question. Emeka looked up slowly. His eyes flicked just once toward Chief Bamidele. And in that tiny movement, Daniel saw everything. Emeka opened his mouth. Then the courtroom lights flickered. Once, twice. A low hum filled the room. The screens on Amara's laptop went black. Gasps erupted. The judge stood abruptly. What is going on? The lights went out completely. Darkness swallowed the courtroom, and in the dark, Daniel heard a sharp voice shout, "Shut it down. Now." Daniel's blood ran cold because someone was trying, again, to stop the truth, and this time they were not even hiding it. For 3 long seconds, the courtroom was swallowed by darkness. Not the quiet kind, the dangerous kind. Someone screamed near the back. A chair scraped the floor. Daniel Okafor felt his heart slam so hard he thought it would break his ribs. His first thought was not money. It was survival. "Everyone stay where you are." The judge's voice boomed through the dark. But fear does not listen to commands. Daniel reached out blindly, his hand brushing the edge of the table. Beside him, Amara froze, her breath shallow but controlled. "Sir," she whispered close to his ear, "don't move." Daniel obeyed. In the dark, he heard hurried footsteps near the side door. Then another voice, low, urgent. "Now. Get it now." Daniel's blood turned cold. "They're here." Before he could think further, the emergency lights flickered on. Dim red bulbs glowed along the walls, casting strange shadows across faces filled with fear. Security officers rushed forward. "Lock the exits," someone shouted. The judge stood tall behind the bench, his face hard with anger. "This is a courtroom," he said sharply, "not a playground for intimidation." Daniel scanned the room quickly. Chief Bamidel was still seated, calm, too calm. His lawyers whispered urgently to him, but he barely moved. His eyes were fixed on Emeka, the witness, who was gripping the edge of the stand like a man about to fall. Amara leaned forward slightly. "Your lordship," she said, voice steady despite the chaos. The witness was about to name the people behind the conspiracy. The judge turned toward Emeka. "Mr. Lawson," he said firmly, "this court will not tolerate interference. You will answer the question." Emeka's lips trembled. Daniel watched sweat drip down the man's temple. "They said they would ruin me," Emeka whispered. "They said I would disappear if I talked." "Who is they?" the judge demanded. Emeka swallowed hard. The lights flickered again, stronger this time, and suddenly the full power returned. Bright white light flooded the courtroom, and with it came silence. Dead silence. Every eye was on Emeka now. He raised his head slowly. His gaze moved across the room. Past Daniel, past Amara, past the judge, and then he stopped. On Chief Bamidel. Emeka's voice shook. "Chief Bamidel," he said. A sharp gasp ran through the courtroom. Reporters jumped to their feet. Cameras clicked wildly. Chief Bamidel did not move, did not blink, did not react. The judge stood up fully now. "Mr. Lawson," he said, "are you accusing the plaintiff of directing false testimony and document forgery?" Emeka nodded, tears forming in his eyes. "Yes, your lordship." The courtroom exploded. "No!" one of the rival lawyers shouted. "This is madness." Chief Bamidel finally stood. "Your lordship," he said calmly, raising a hand, "this is a desperate lie from a disgraced man." Amara spoke immediately. "Your lordship," she said, "may I submit the call records?" The judge turned to her sharply. "What call records?" Amara opened her laptop again, hands steady. "The calls Emeka received before today. Numbers linked to shell companies tied to the plaintiff." Chief Bamidel's face tightened for the first time. "Objection," his counsel shouted. "This is a phishing exercise." The judge slammed the gavel. "Denied." Amara connected her laptop to the courtroom screen. The display lit up, rows of numbers, dates, times. One number appeared again and again. Daniel leaned forward. He recognized it. That number belonged to Bamidel Group Holdings. Amara pointed to the screen. "These calls began 3 weeks ago," she said. "Each time, shortly after, Mr. Lawson sent messages expressing fear." The judge's jaw hardened. Chief Bamidel's calm cracked. "Just slightly." "That proves nothing," he said. Amara nodded once. "You're right. On its own, it proves nothing." Then she clicked again. A recording filled the courtroom. A man's voice spoke, smooth, confident. "You will say what we discussed. You will say Daniel signed it, and when this is over, you will be taken care of." Daniel felt his breath leave his body. The voice was unmistakable, Chief Bamidele's. The courtroom went dead silent. Even the air seemed frozen. Chief Bamidele's lawyers stared at him in shock. "That recording is fake," one shouted. The judge raised his hand. Silence, he ordered. He turned slowly toward Chief Bamadel. Is that your voice? The judge asked. Chief Bamadel did not answer. For the first time since the trial began, he looked unsure. Daniel's heart pounded with hope and fear, because exposing someone this powerful was dangerous. Amara spoke again, quieter now. Your lordship, the attempted kidnapping of Barrister Ajayi, the forged documents, the false witness, the power outage, it all points to one thing. She paused. A coordinated attempt to destroy Okafor Holdings and silence the truth. The judge nodded slowly. He turned to the courtroom officers. Take Chief Bamadel into custody for questioning, he said, immediately. Chaos erupted. No, Chief Bamadel shouted as officers approached him. This is a setup. As they moved to restrain him, Chief Bamadel's eyes locked onto Daniel, not with fear, with rage. This is not over, he hissed. Daniel felt a chill run through him. Chief Bamadel was escorted out, shouting protests. The courtroom buzzed like a broken beehive. The judge banged the gavel again and again. Order! Order! When silence returned, the judge turned to Daniel. Mr. Okafor, he said, this court has serious concerns about the integrity of the plaintiff's case. Daniel nodded slowly, heart still racing. But the judge did not dismiss the case. Instead, he said something unexpected. However, the judge continued, the scale of the alleged conspiracy requires careful review. This court will adjourn until tomorrow morning. Daniel's heart sank. Adjourn. Amara's eyes widened slightly. The judge looked directly at Daniel. Until then, he added, I advise all parties to remain available. The gavel struck. Court adjourned. As people stood and noise filled the room again, Amara leaned toward Daniel. We're close, she whispered, but this is the most dangerous moment. Daniel nodded. He knew she was right. Outside the courtroom, reporters swarmed. Security pushed people back. Tunda leaned close to Daniel. Sir, he said quietly, we need protection. If they tried kidnapping once, Daniel exhaled slowly. Yes, he said. Get it. As they moved down the hallway, Daniel felt eyes on his back. He turned slightly. Down the corridor at the far end, a man stood watching him. Not a lawyer, not security, just a stranger in a dark suit. The man raised a phone slowly, took a photo, then disappeared into the crowd. Daniel's stomach dropped. Because he understood something clearly now, winning in court was only half the battle. Surviving long enough to finish the trial, that was the real fight, and whatever was coming next would not wait for morning. Daniel Okafor did not sleep that night. Every sound outside the hotel felt louder than it should. Every shadow on the wall looked like a person standing still. 2 armed security men sat outside his door, switching shifts in silence. Across the hall, Amara Nwosu sat on the edge of her bed, with her laptop open, eyes red but focused. She was not afraid of sleep. She was afraid of missing something. At 3:17 a.m., her phone buzzed. She stared at the screen, then her heart skipped. Sir, she whispered as she knocked softly on Daniel's door minutes later, we just got confirmation. Daniel opened the door immediately. Confirmation of what? Amara stepped inside and lowered her voice. The shell companies, she said, Brightful Resources, and the others. They all trace back to one holding structure. Daniel swallowed. Owned by who? Amara looked him straight in the eye. By Chief Bamadele's private trust, she said. Registered offshore, but controlled locally through proxies. Daniel leaned against the wall, stunned. That was it. The final piece. Morning came too fast. By 8:30 a.m., the courtroom was packed tighter than before. This was no longer just a business case. It was now a national story. Billionaire versus billionaire. Forgery. Kidnapping attempt. Courtroom blackout. Everyone wanted to see how it would end. Daniel walked in calmly, but his heart was heavy. He had won battles, but wars were unpredictable. Amara sat beside him, her posture straight, her face calm. She looked younger than ever in that moment. Across the aisle, Chief Bamadel's seat was empty. The judge entered. Everyone rose. Everyone sat. The judge did not waste time. This court reconvenes with serious matters before it, he said. Miss Norsu, you indicated last night that further evidence had emerged. Amara stood. Yes, your lordship. She walked forward, holding a single file. This document, she said, shows that Brightfall Resources and two other entities were created solely to receive assets from Okafor Holdings after fabricated disputes. She paused. The controlling beneficiary is Chief Bamidele. The courtroom erupted. Order, the judge shouted. Amara continued, voice steady. The forged documents, the false witness, the attempted kidnapping, the power outage. They were all steps in one plan to force a receivership, crash Okafor Holdings' value, and absorb it quietly. Daniel felt his chest tighten. This was it. The judge turned to the empty plaintiff's seat. The court notes the absence of Chief Bamidele, he said. A court officer stepped forward. Your lordship, he announced, Chief Bamidele was taken into custody late last night on charges of conspiracy, obstruction of justice, and attempted interference with court proceedings. A wave of shock rolled through the room. Some people gasped, some clapped before quickly stopping. Daniel closed his eyes briefly. It was real. The judge turned back to Amara. Proceed. Amara nodded and placed one final document before the court. Your lordship, she said, this email, previously overlooked, was sent from Chief Bamidele's private account. It outlines the entire strategy. The judge read in silence. The room held its breath. Finally, he looked up. This court finds that the plaintiff's case was built on fraud, he said slowly. Deliberate fraud. Daniel's heart pounded. The evidence against Okafor Holdings is hereby dismissed. For half a second, the room was silent. Then it exploded. Daniel sat frozen as the words sank in. Dismissed, not reduced, not delayed. Dismissed. The judge raised his hand again. Furthermore, he continued, this court orders a full investigation into the corporate conspiracy uncovered during these proceedings. He paused. Mr. Okafor's assets, valued at over $500 million, are secure. Daniel felt his vision blur. He had done it. No, they had done it. Amara lowered her head slightly, exhaling for the first time in days. The gavel struck, court adjourned, reporters rushed forward, cameras flashed, voices called Daniel's name, but Daniel did not move. He turned slowly to Amara. You saved everything, he said quietly. Amara shook her head. No, she replied. The truth did. Outside the courtroom, as security escorted them through the crowd, Daniel finally understood something that stayed with him forever. If Barrister Ajayi had arrived on time, if everything had gone as planned, the hidden fraud might never have been seen. The lawyer missing the trial looked like a disaster, but it was the opening the truth needed. As Daniel stepped into the sunlight, surrounded by noise and flashing cameras, one thought echoed clearly in his mind. Sometimes, what almost destroys you is exactly what saves you. If you like this story, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel for more interesting stories.